Hey, this is John from socialmediachaplain.com. If you're watching this video, I want to start by saying I'm sorry. Because the reason that you're here is that there was a link or a title that talked about learning about funerals or memorial services or picnics, and you have some reason for looking into that question. If you are part of a cultural tradition or religious tradition that tells you what kinds of events to have around death, then you can probably stop watching because you already have those sets of things to do. However, there are many of us who are in a situation where we've had a loved one say, I don't want any kind of a service. When what they're really trying to tell us is, I don't want people looking at my body. But the way that we are built as human beings means that we are built to have a need to pause our lives to remember somebody else's life. And so there are a number of things that we can do. There are a number of ways that we can do that. One of the most traditional ways is to do a funeral. Funeral is the kind of event that you have fairly quickly after death because you have the body there and you're doing it inside a building. The casket is open or closed. We'll talk about that some other time. But a funeral happens with the body there. A memorial service happens not as quickly. A memorial service can have the ashes present or can have just a picture there. Memorial service can happen at a funeral home, at a church, at some other kind of gathering place. But it's a fairly structured kind of service that is a chance to memorialize the person. A graveside service is something that can happen not in a building but out at the cemetery. Now sometimes you'll have a graveside committal service after a funeral service. Other times all you'll have is a graveside service. Often that happens for an infant, for somebody where you can't imagine there being a need for a massive crowd for a funeral, and so you'll have just a time at the graveside. That can happen if there are ashes or a casket. And then there's a picnic or a dinner or a cruise or a party, which happens not at all with ashes, not at all with a formal service component, but it is that opportunity to say, they never would have wanted this, but what we need to do is this. We need to have a party, and as part of that party, as part of that picnic, as part of that barbecue, as part of that gathering out by the lake, as part of that gathering at a place that mattered significantly both to the person who has died and the people who are wanting to respect him or her, to have a time where you pause your life to honor theirs. Now here's the secret. None of those is best. The only thing that is best is to actually do something. Too often we hear the person who has died saying, I don't want anything. And the truth is, that's not up to them. They don't get to decide how we need to handle our loss and our grief. So we don't have to do a funeral with an open casket. I understand very much the idea of not wanting people staring at me after I'm dead. But to have some kind of an event where we together look to each other, look to God, remember back on that loved one, and stop our lives to honor theirs. I hope that's helpful. Thanks, and I hope that things get better for you. Take care.